I have something to admit. I've never seen the sequel to Ridley Scott's 1979 masterpiece, Alien. So maybe it's time we finally watch Alien 2 on Earth. What? That's not right? Well, I've just been informed that Alien 2 Solitaria, or Alien 2 on Earth, is an Italian ripoff, and has nothing to do with the first Alien, or any of its sequels. But I got it here, so let's give it a watch. It opens up with stock footage of some space mission, and we hear something about a capsule that's set to return to Earth. While everyone waits for that, the local news decides to go the complete opposite of outer space, and instead head down deep into Earth's caves. So they interview an expert on the topic, Thelma. She seems nice enough, but when the host asks her about a recent cave that they've been exploring, she blanks out and seems to have some sort of attack on TV.
What the hell's happening there? Zoom in on two.
They cut away, and we learn from her boyfriend, Roy, that she's a psychic, and this happens from time to time. Instead of continuing on with the interview, the couple decides to join their friends at the bowling alley. And, well, they're not very good. I mean, I'm no professional bowler either, but at least I try. Anyway, after that drags on for a little too long, the group decides to head to the local general store to pick up some things for their big trip back to the cave. Thelma decides to take a walk on a nearby beach. She finds this girl and yells at her for no reason, and then her boyfriend calls her back to the car. A little later, the girl spots something on the beach and heads towards it for a closer look. It's now time to go, and her mom can't find her. After calling Lucy for 10 minutes, she eventually spots her crying. As she gets closer, we can see Lucy doesn't have a face. But then how's she crying? You think she'd be dead. On the radio, we hear the space capsule has indeed landed, but when they opened it, no one was inside. Weird, but that doesn't really seem to matter to our group of spelunkers. They're all too excited to head back to the cave. But first, they have to stop by at a mom and pop stand to get some food and gear up. While there, one of the guys, Bert, has to take a leak, and that's when their misfortune starts, because Bert finds an interesting little rock, which he gives to Thelma. Big mistake. Not long after that, the group finds themselves back in the cave they recently discovered, and this time they plan on going deeper than ever before. I think now is a good time to point out that they actually filmed in a real cave, the Castellana Grotto in Italy, and boy is it pretty. This cave is the highlight of the movie for sure. The first day is pretty uneventful. I do notice that the music is pretty good, but it doesn't fit the scene at all. I would expect something that's scary or makes you feel claustrophobic, but no, it's rock music, which, I mean, caves are made of rocks, so I guess it works. At the end of the day, they're all settled down, getting ready for bed, and this is where we see Thelma and Roy. She's having some sort of existential crisis and struggling with her psychic ability. I think I'd be able to pay more attention to what she's saying if she didn't have her shirt off. But hey, don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. The next day, they all split up to explore the cave. One group finds a formation that looks like a camel, so there's that. They pose for a picture, and I feel like that's the perfect opportunity for a jump scare. As the flash goes off, something runs behind them. But no, that doesn't happen. Another group is hiking around and takes a closer look at that blue stone they found, which is now pulsating, almost breathing. Then it attacks. Thelma yells for help, and when they find Jill, she looks fine. Her face is still there. But we did see her get attacked. So what's up with that? Well, just like the facehugger, this is only the first stage of the alien's evolution.
Right, she had on a helmet.
Next, there's a really, really long shot. Seriously, I almost fell asleep during this part, and I'm not even joking. After that, if you're still awake, you'll get to see some pretty gnarly special effects. The alien bursts out of her eye, and it's really gross. It attacks a guy who trips and falls, and he's now hanging upside down with the creature around his neck. And then his head falls off. Everyone goes running, and they regroup further down in the cave, knowing that the only exit is back where the creature is. Bert's the only one with the balls to head back to get their supplies, which they're gonna need if they stand a chance at all to get out of here. Thankfully, he makes it back safe and sound, and the group finally has a ray of hope. Once again, they split up. Thelma and Roy find what looks like an ancient dried-up lake, which would have to lead somewhere, so they decide to follow that for a while. Another group is wandering around, and they get attacked by a crazed rat, which breaks their sonar device, essentially making them lost in a maze. The others regroup and notice that they're still missing Bert and Marie, the ones that were attacked by the rat. As they go around, the music changes, and it almost sounds like Jaws for a second. What, are they ripping off that movie too? Well, they go deeper and deeper until they hear something breathing, and then the monster rips off both of their faces. So it's not a face hugger, but a face ripper. And this is really our bad guy of the movie? It's literally a bloody sock puppet. Back to the main group, and this guy, Cliff, goes off to find the others. He goes so far that eventually he loses signal with Thelma, who has to use her psychic powers to warn him of the threat just above his head. But, oops, I guess she's a little too late. They walk for a bit until they see something in the darkness. A flashlight. It's Cliff. Except, it's not. He's not the same thing he was before. It gets windy for a second, which in a cave I would think that's a good thing. An exit's nearby. But here, they don't move a muscle. In fact, it looks like they're having a staring contest. I guess Thelma won because Cliff blows up. Finally, the last non-main character dies, and we're left with just Roy and Thelma, who actually managed to make it to the surface and out into the desert. They get back to their car and head into town. The first place they go? The bowling alley, of course. Good call. All your friends are dead, and the first thing you want to do is go bowling. Well, it turns out that this place is empty, despite the machines still working. They wander around for a long time, and eventually one of the monsters kills Roy and comes after Thelma. What are we looking through here? Is this a POV shot through the thing's butthole? Well, if you haven't figured it out already, everyone's gone. Killed by the alien invaders. And that was Alien 2 on Earth. And all in all, it's not that bad. It drags in parts, but I'm sure it's just as good as the real sequel to Alien. Right? I'm joking. Obviously I've seen Aliens, and this movie is nowhere close to as entertaining as the proper sequel. It's just too boring. I think this would have worked better as a half-hour episode of The Twilight Zone, because there is some things that actually work here. I love the idea of a group of people fighting an enemy unaware that the entire planet is also fighting for their lives. The audience roots for the main characters, and we think if only they can get out of the cave, then everything will be okay. Only to find that no, everything is not okay, and you were better off in the cave. Thelma's psychic powers weren't really explained that well. I'm guessing that the initial attack that happened while she was being interviewed on TV was when the aliens first landed on Earth. And I think that's the only reason she was alive in the end, because her mind was strong and the aliens couldn't get in. But that's only a guess because it wasn't really explained at all in the movie. There is one good thing that came out of this ripoff, however. Before doing anything else, the director used part of the budget to buy an expensive car. That's good, pamper yourself before you've done any of the work. Speaking of the director, he also tried to sue the producers of The Descent because the movies have a similar plot. But no, they don't. I thought the Descent monsters were always living in the cave and they weren't from space. Other than that, I mean, yeah, both movies take place in a cave, but plenty of movies do. If I was him, I'd be more worried about being sued by 20th Century Fox for ripping off Alien. I mean, they did set it up to be a sequel. It's in the name, Alien 2. And they actually did try to sue the director of this movie, but I guess there's also a novel that was written in the 30s called Alien, so they used that as some sort of loophole. How about just name the movie something else? On Earth would have been just fine. But honestly, the only reason I ever heard of this movie is because it was supposed to be a sequel to Alien in name only. So if they didn't do that, I wouldn't be reviewing it right now. I give Alien 2 on Earth 1.5 bloody sock puppets out of 4.
Do you do this alone?
No, I'm one of a group. But unfortunately, the others are playing a bowling match.
Oh, well, say hello to them.